Welcome to the Beyond Normal podcast. I'm excited to have my friend for quite a bit of time now, Michael Hollingsworth, the founder of the NuWay Staffing. What I like to say his business is, and I'll let him chime in on this as well. But this is definitely, that premier staffing service for all those targeting the Southeast right now who have been institutionalized and are looking to rehabilitate their careers and start fresh. So, I want to welcome my good friend, Michael Hollingsworth.
Thank you for allowing me to join. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate that, sir. All right. So I want to get right into it. You have a very unique story around how you got into your entrepreneur journey.
Yep.
So I want you to tell us a little bit about your background, upbringing all the way up into how you transitioned from corporate into your current position at NuWay Staffing.
Right. So background, pretty regular, from a smaller town just outside of Atlanta. So I'm a Georgia boy, born and raised, went to undergrad here, grad school, got out of college, started my career in banking. So was a business banker for a few years with Wells Fargo, then went to graduate school, got out of graduate school, joined GE in one of their leadership programs. So that gave me the opportunity to move out of Georgia for the first time. So lived in Bentonville, Arkansas, Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, Texas. So it was an amazing experience, for a small town, kid to get a chance to experience living in these different places. And that really broadened, my exposure to a lot of different things. In terms of how I got into entrepreneurship. So as you mentioned, my organization, we're a second chance employment agency. We partner with the Department of Corrections, both here in Georgia and in Florida. So we contract with industrial companies, so construction and manufacturing, to place individuals who are coming out of prison into gainful employment. And how I got into that personal story, my dad actually spent 4 years in prison on a nonviolent drug charge. And when he was released, he struggled to find employment. And prior to him going to prison, he was very skilled. So he drove a 18-wheeler for years. He was an owner-operator for a while, so he ran his own business. He did flooring. He was a mechanic. So he was very mechanically inclined, but that mark on his record prevented him from getting a second chance. And not just him, some other cousins that have had a similar experience. So I'm very familiar with the types, with who's in prison, because, a lot of those are my family members. So I know how skilled and how capable they are. And my experience in corporate, taught me how to interact with executives, how to present, how to take an idea from concept to execution. So I had these wonderful skills that I felt like I could put together with this experience that I've witnessed with my family members to start a business. And a little less than 3 years ago, I decided to take a leap of faith. I knew that there was a big need for these, for individuals coming from prison to get gainful employment, but I also felt like there was an opportunity entrepreneurially because a lot of entrepreneurs or businesses weren't focused on this space. So I decided to put together a business model, i.e. the staffing agency, and started pitching it to companies. And I was right. So I think we probably on our 10th contract, and have a lot of big things in the works. And, we've met with some of the largest companies in the world at what they do. So there's a lot of interest in this, but I wanted to make an impact and help those that have gone through what my dad and my, family went through, and also, grow as a professional at the same time. So it gave me kind of that double dip. So I guess you would call me a social entrepreneur, and that's, it's a hot thing now to be a social entrepreneur. So it kind of bridges the impact of traditional nonprofits, but it has that for-profit element. So, I've thoroughly enjoyed my 2.5 years in entrepreneurship and made some incredible strides. So again, thank you for having me. And, that's a little bit about my background and how and why I got started.
Got it. So, talk a little bit about, you spoke to the skills that you gained in more of a corporate setting. Talk about a little bit about, like, was there a defining moment where you knew I need to take these skills and I need to, I've learned enough in that corporate environment and I need to apply them to something, like you said, where you want to be that social entrepreneur and give back to the community?
I don't know if it's a defining moment. I went back and forth. I knew this was something that could work. I knew that in my heart. And I also knew that if I didn't do it, I would regret it for the rest of my life. So I think that was just the moment, like me thinking about, and I'm sure you're a tech guy, so you're familiar with Jeff Bezos, right? So he has this term called regret minimization. So he's like, I'll fast forward myself to when I'm 80 years old, and if I regret not doing this at 80, then I have to do it. And it's similar. I would regret it for the rest of my life because I knew everything was there. I understand this probably like no one else, but then I have the business skills to kind of help move it forward. So the pieces were in place. It was just up to me to kind of build up the courage. And it was a big step because I was making great money, had a great job, but I just wanted to do something more and be more impactful.
No, and I commend you for that. That's a big step to take. But like you said, thinking like somebody like a Jeff Bezos who you use as an example, he doesn't leave anything on the table, right? He's willing to take some of those bets, on a really big scale, right? But
right.
You took that time to say, all right, now's the time for me to take this bet and gamble on yourself, which a lot of people I think are battling with right now, and there's some opportunity for folks to gamble on themselves a little bit more in the current climate. And
I think it's important for everyone to really find out what you can do. That's the one thing entrepreneurship allows you. You'll definitely find out what you're capable of. Mm-hmm. If you ever question it, you'll find out. And it not just tests you as a business person, but it tests you emotionally, the ups and downs. So when I left corporate, I got my first contract 2 weeks after I left, right? So I'm thinking I'm this phenomenal entrepreneur. I went another 3 months before I got my second contract. That 3 month period was rough because I'm thinking contracts are going to be coming left and right, but they weren't. And even with the second contract, it ended up not working out. So that's another down moment. And it took another 2 or 3 months before I got my third contract. So it tests you. Entrepreneurship tests you in ways you can never imagine. And a lot of people don't think about the emotional aspect, but it definitely strengthens you emotionally, and it makes you're ready for anything. If you can sustain being an entrepreneur for a couple of years, you can do anything.
Anything. Yep. All right. I think that's a good reflection to kind of segue into the next question that I have for you. What's something that you wish you would have known at the beginning of this entrepreneur journey that you feel like would have, let you hit the ground a little bit, running a little bit quicker than, like you said, going through some of those learning experiences throughout the process?
I believed in myself that I had the skills to do it. I didn't know that I was going to have to learn to do everything, like literally everything. I've learned how to do corporate taxes, learned how to reconcile my books, all the invoicing. I do the cold calling, to scheduling the meeting, to pitching, the contract negotiations, literally end to end. I can do it all. I didn't think about that portion, but I'm glad I was forced myself to learn those things, because now it's like I know what I can do. I think the second thing I just alluded to, just the emotional aspect of it that is never really talked about. Entrepreneurship is like a roller coaster, it's ups and downs, and those down moments really, really test you. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that fall into depression because you have these grand hopes of what this thing can be and the impact that you can make in the world. And if you don't see that impact happening, that can really, that can be kind of saddening. I wish I'd have known that it was going to test me to those depths. But again, it's made me so much stronger. So the fact that I've had to learn how to operate a business end to end, and it's made me a lot stronger emotionally. I think those two things are things that I wasn't expecting.
I think now, like you mentioned, that emotional piece, right? I think the buzzword that people use is like EQ, comparing people's EQ to their IQ.
Right.
But in the current climate, like people are dealing with, a lot of emotions, right? Just with COVID going on, families aren't able to just connect. You're not able to see your friends in person. You're not supposed to be. Some people still are. Right. We got the riots, the George Floyd situation. I want to talk a little bit around, how you still engage with your end customer, which is ultimately these people who are trying to reacclimate and back into society. What is their kind of emotional state that you've gotten a feel of through the COVID situation and now the George Floyd riots?
Right. My business is it's a two-sided market, right? So one side is, are the returning citizens or the people that are coming out of prison. The other side are the industrial companies. Both are our clients. Speaking from the returning citizen standpoint, I can just speak for myself because I'm a black man. So we're all going to feel this the same. It's definitely disheartening to know that your life is discounted here. But, our parents have told us that, that it's difficult to be a black man in America. I love the fact that so many people from all different walks of life have come together in solidarity to protest these injustices. So it's not just black people that are voicing our concerns. Now it's people from around the world. I think that's a beautiful thing. So that gives us all signs of hope that things are, moving in the right direction. Who knows when it'll be fully, the way it needs to be, but it's at least being noticed, unlike it, any time in the past.
Yeah, good point. So you have two sides of your client relationship, right? You're dealing with those who are coming back into society, and then those businesses that need that talent.
Right.
I guess what has the communication been like from the partners that you're working with during the current, the George Floyd riots? Have they been kind of opening up a little bit more, saying they're going to step up, or how are your corporate partners feeling in terms of the current climate?
My clients in particular are all about, they understand the need for opportunities, and we've had the opportunity to place guys with their companies, so they get how they understand. They now see how talented these folks are, so they get it, which is why they're working with us to begin with. They were compassionate enough even before this to sign contracts with us. Our clients get it. Now we've been in talks with several other larger companies over the past year. We're starting those conversations again. So I'll be eager to see how those conversations turn out, given, what's going on in the community and how NuWay directly impacts men and women who face these barriers and who, are prevented from getting their lives back together. So definitely interested to see, how those conversations turn out in the coming months.
One last question on this piece, and then I'll move on. In terms of, we all have seen in terms of, the money and some of the resources that businesses, are starting to allocate, to, get rid of, right, the racial injustice that's going on. I wanted you to take a minute, take however long you think you need, but just to explain why you feel like companies should be investing in a business like yours, where there are some folks that have been disenfranchised and they've gone through situations who may need that second chance in order to, add value that we all think that we should add.
Right.
That said value.
Yeah, this actually isn't a pitch that I give to companies. One, a lot of people coming out of prison have the skill set that these industrial companies are looking for. They're former welders, mechanics, equipment operators. It's really hard for these companies to find the type of talent out in the general public, right? So one, they're able to be more productive and, get their work done quicker. But two, the economic impact speaks for itself. So Georgia alone, it costs $35,000 a year to house someone in prison. And stats say within 5 years, 75%, there's a 4 out of 5 chance they're going to go back to prison, right? So think about all those resources that taxpayers are paying to house these individuals. And when they get out, if they can't find a job, think about the social services that they're having to utilize, the food stamps. So, you go from $35,000 a year, then, when they're out, a few more $1,000 a month, right? Whereas if they're employed, they pay on average $10,000 to $15,000 a year in taxes. And Manhattan Institute did a study that says, the sooner an individual is employed after, they're released, the less likely they are to go back to prison. So you essentially go from taxpayers paying $35,000 a year to them paying into the tax base by $10,000 to $15,000. So that's a $45,000 to $50,000 net impact to the community per year. And if you look at California, I think it's like $70,000 a year to house someone in prison. So you're looking at, if you can get them employed and keep them out of prison, that's a six-figure net impact per year in places like California. So it benefits everyone. One, the companies are getting the necessary talent to, increase their productivity. But two, the economy benefits as a whole. Mm-hmm. So everybody benefits when we can take this one person and get them on the right track.
Yeah, and I love that you have that in the pitch because those are eye-opening numbers.
Absolutely.
Right? Like
Absolutely.
you said, Atlanta's a big metro, so you guys are going to have numbers similar to, like you said, California, where the impact of not having these folks in the system, right, it's huge and it benefits everybody.
Right.
In terms of, how would somebody go about giving back or, helping this cause that you're working on and that you're passionate with?
I would just say just advocacy in general. I mean, we're a pretty closed system, so we don't work with the public. It's what is called B2B2G, business to business to government. It's pretty closed. We don't even really do much social media marketing. But just say advocacy, because not everyone owns a manufacturing company or a large construction company. But, we all interact with people that have been to prison. And, we all could have gone to prison, at some point in our lives because we've all made mistakes. We just happen to not have gotten caught. So just advocacy. Just judge those folks for the person that they are now, not by the mistake that they made. And I think if we all take that approach, a lot of things will change.
And you mentioned one thing there, like you said, is B2B2G.
Yep.
And I think that's important, right? That G, that we all know, that government piece. And I know the big hot topic for everybody right now is just getting out and voting. Right. And kind of just knowing, what your local politicians, what's their thought process on these kinds of topics as people do look to come back into society.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So how do people go about staying in touch with everything that NuWay Staffing is doing and just keeping up to date with all the great things that your company's doing? Right.
Primarily, you can go to our website, which is NuWayStaffing.com, NU-WAY staffing.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. We don't have a big, because we're a pretty closed system, so we don't do a lot on the Instagrams and the Facebooks. It's something we may start doing more in the near future. But yeah, our website, LinkedIn, pretty much keeps folks, up to date with what we're doing.
In closing, I wanted to just give you some time towards the end, if you had any last remarks, anything you want to leave the people with in terms of what, NuWay Staffing is currently doing and what you guys are going to be building towards for the future.
I mean, I think the goal is to impact every major metropolitan city in the country. That's the goal. We're on a great start. Florida in conversations with the Carolinas, but there's some other areas that need to be addressed in this space as well, from a transportation to work perspective, a housing perspective. So I really want to go after those, and those are the three key hurdles: employment, transportation, and housing. Really want to go after those areas, see how we can impact them to make lives better. So I mean, it's a lifetime worth of work. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say it's my life work per se, but those are the things that we're looking at, really changing how the system operates post incarceration.
Yeah, thinking about that wing to wing.
Absolutely.
That seems like you said, that's a lifetime of work.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, and I know you'll definitely get there.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
I want to thank again. I want to thank Michael for joining us. Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast. I can be reached by cell phone via call or text at 980-263-9921. I'm interested in connecting with other business owners across different industries and looking forward to the conversation.